It's time for Getting Down to Business with Mark Mondo. This new show discusses trends, technology, and tactics to help the listener learn more about improving sales, saving money, and fulfilling a personal mission through entrepreneurship.
Welcome to Getting Down to Business with Mark Mondo on WVLP 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Mark Mondo. We're on the air in Valparaiso, Indiana, and you can listen to us streaming on the website at wvlp.org or use the TuneIn app on your mobile device and look for WVLP. 103.1 FM WVLP is a local nonprofit radio station based in Valparaiso, Indiana. This show, like many of the shows on WVLP, are made possible by the generosity of donors and underwriters. We accept donations at wvlp.org. Simply click on the support tab and make a one-time donation or sustained pledge to WVLP. All donations are tax deductible. Underwriters are made up of businesses and organizations that support the shows on WVLP. Getting Down to Business with Mark Mondo would like to thank Homes by Hortensia, a Coldwell Banker affiliate in Porter County, Indiana, for their support. Homes by Hortensia has served the region's residential real estate needs in Indiana for over 12 years. Contact Hortensia Moreno or Tiffany Zarayo at 219-249-5118 or visit homesbyhortensia.com. Homes by Hortensia, habla español. All right, welcome back to another episode. If you listened last week, we took another look at AI and started learning about the impact of voice search technology to help you gain an edge with marketing. This week, we're going to go a different route. We're going far away from the tech, and we're going to focus on sales and perseverance by interviewing a friend of ours who's made a successful career in a highly subjective and competitive world of acting and entertainment. So to start things off, I'm going to introduce to my side the producer, a star soprano, and my wife, Mrs. Cynthia Zimmerman.
Thank you. Always glad to be here.
Well, we're glad you're back. You were out of commission last week for the AI episode with Scott, Susan, and Vivek.
That's right. I had COVID, which my whole choir group contracted on our return from our successful choir trip to Canterbury Cathedral in England. So we were thankful we only got sick at the end, not at the beginning.
Yeah, that means I would have had to substitute, and that would have been bad. So with that stated, to my other side is Cynthia's dear friend. You may have seen her on a major network series, some feature films, commercials, theater, or America's Got Talent. She's a triple threat. She's an actor, a singer, a dancer, as well as a consultant for Rodan and Fields. Let's welcome Cindy Chang.
Hello, thank you. But I do have one correction because
tell me.
Technical writer back in the day. So really, I'm actually not a triple threat. I could sing, act, and dance, but I'm more of a singer who could move. To be a real dancer, you have to do at least a double pirouette, which I cannot do. So I cannot say I am a real dancer. So I say I'm like a 2.5 threat.
Well, I think those of us in this office for this interview, you are a triple threat. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we're here. And why have we invited Cindy Chang to the show? We know she's a star actress, but there's a really different background into success that I've taken. I went through a more technical route, diving into the IT world. My family was all into computers and technology, and the arts were never really a part of our lives growing up. I mean, some people talk about reminiscing about music being played. We really didn't have that. It's nothing negative. It's just the fact of life. So when I hear about Cynthia's stories about classical music being played in the background from her dad, that's like a different world. So for me, I'm curious to hear how someone got through to be successful into the arts. And I think it's so different. It's so subjective. You're not an engineer to get there, to be an actor or singer. It's just so different. At the end of the day, even if it's a very different craft, I'm going to try to draw a conclusion how it's similar to being sales in a technical field like mine, where it comes to auditions equaling sales calls. And I want to start talking about that. I want to talk about how Cindy has built her career, because she has to find gigs. It's not just like throwing up a YouTube video and all of a sudden here comes a big deal. No, Logan Paul and those YouTube guys and gals are statistical anomalies. I think it's a lot harder to get there than just becoming lucky in a YouTube star. So she's going to talk about how networking and auditioning for employment and having an agent has become key. And I'm going to start turning this over to Cynthia, because Cynthia took a route in the arts. She has her master's in voice performance and took a career in voice. And I think Cindy and Cynthia can connect very well, and they'll share their story of how they got together and how their careers have worked in the arts.
Well, thank you for that, my dear husband. And let's start. I knew Cindy Chang through a mutual voice teacher, Winifred Brown. And because she recommended her to her, I give Cindy a lot of credit for helping me get my voice to where it is now, because of the wonderful technique that I learned from our mutual voice teacher, Winifred Brown. And we also did some shows together with Light Opera Works, and a true friendship grew out of that experience with her journey as becoming a professional actor. You did not start out as this was your dream. You grew up in a family where you did sing, but your parents had wanted you to take something more stable as a career choice. And so you actually started out working in the marketing field, being a technical writer for training manuals and doing the graphics and the editing for that. So if you could share how that journey started to where you are now, I would be great. It's a very interesting journey.
Thank you. Yes. You and I met at Light Opera Works. Oh, that was a long time ago, wasn't it?
We don't have to count back that far. But...
The math is starting to add up.
Yeah.
I did not major in music or acting, even though that was my dream ever since I could remember. But like you said, I was raised very traditionally. I mean, my family and I was born in Korea. So we're from Korea. We're immigrants and we're now American citizens. But, just like a lot of immigrant families, it's very traditional. You obey what your parents want. And my parents, like many Asian families, is they didn't sacrifice everything for you to come to America for you to become a singer or actor, right? They want you to become a doctor, lawyer, engineer. So they said, you become doctor, you become lawyer, and then you just say you naturally, without even, it doesn't even occur to you to even say no, you just say yes. So that was my trajectory. My parents wanted me to be a lawyer or get a PhD and be a professor. Mm-hmm. So that's my degree, speech comm pre-law. And I hated it. And even but kind of like you, Cynthia, because your father was a choir director, so was mine. We always had classical music playing in the background. So I grew up listening to all the classics, and I was able to sing those operas and everything before I was 8 years old, just because that's the gift God gave me. But I never got to pursue it until basically you and I met at Light Opera Works, later in years. So prior to that, graduating and doing what my parents wanted, hated, and I got a regular, real, quote unquote, real job in the corporate world, because obviously you got to pay bills. And even the technical writing, I kind of fell into that gradually, getting jobs and then learning that skill on the job and then becoming a technical writer. And editing training manuals, working with the engineers and writing those training manuals and editing the graphics or creating whatever they needed me to create. So that was where I was. That's was my job before. And then after I got laid off, I was, I really want to sing and I want to act. So that's what I've been basically pounding.
Did you look for a sandwich board over in Evanston saying actors needed, or how do you stumble into this?
See, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking. Like, I did not know. I didn't know.
It's like the late 90s. Technology wasn't ubiquitous as it is today.
Exactly. I didn't know anyone or anything in this industry, right? All I knew was that I want to sing, I want to act. I just knew I had to do it. I didn't know how, I didn't know who, nothing. But I remember I would just start to ask people that I knew, even though they weren't actors or whatever, and then maybe they knew somebody, but it was just like started word of mouth. But there was these publications in Chicago back before the internet called The Reader, as also an Audition News.
Yes.
And behind those were little auditions or classes you could take. That's how I actually started. Was in the Chicago Reader. There was like this audition for a play at a church in an area where it was really dangerous, because back then, and then it was a community theater. And then for Audition News was like this workshop, 2-week workshop, performing arts workshop. And I never took any classes, nothing. No, let me take that. I did take one class back in college as to fulfill a requirement. And it happened to be like an oral interpretation and an acting class. So that's how I kind of got an introduction to like, I really like it. So the Audition News and Chicago Reader was how I started to actually build a resume, because I had nothing, right? Because people would tell me, oh, you need a headshot in a resume. I'm like, well, I don't have anything. So that's how I started to build a resume, was joining community theater, joining choir, just so I had something, taking a workshop so I had something and to put on. And then they also told me, they used to have this publication called The Book, which has all the lists of the agents in Chicago. So, and like you said, Mark, before the internet, you literally had to go walk to their office, because they had certain office hours where they would let people drop off. They call it open office, and you could drop off your headshot and resume. And I will be totally honest, my first headshot was all wrong. It was, I went to a friend of my dad's who was a photographer. Headshots for acting is totally different, right? But I didn't know that. So, but I just needed a photo. So I just got, basically, it's like, I didn't know anything. I did everything wrong, but I just did it because I just wanted to go for this dream that I had no idea how to do.
Let's talk about that. I want to hear more about that inner drive and a support network to take that, because I can hear this all the time. Oh, I'll watch out, Cynthia. I'm going to use a trigger. Tom Cruise, did he just start there and just make those auditions in those community theaters? It's a running gag between Cynthia and I about Tom Cruise and her assessment of his abilities. Here it's just like, oh, and he just went from community theater to A-list. What is that in between? Tell us more about that in between, like between the drive, the people that help you. I really want to hear that detail.
Thank you for asking that. That's really good. First of all, I am a Tom Cruise fan, and then let's just do that. Anyway, he's one of those what you call stars, right? I did not have support. Nobody in my family, I mean, they meant well, right? But it's typical traditional way of growing up. It's like, what the heck are you doing? Are you crazy? They thought I was out of my mind. And they meant well, but I still remember wanting, going to college. I wanted to sing. And I remember being told by my family, you're stupid, you're crazy, you're not good enough. And you believe that. So you're like, okay, I'm not good. But it's like, but again, there was something in me, and I just attributed to that. That's what it's God's calling for me. It is something deep in my soul that never went away. Even if it was suppressed for a long time, it never went away. And that is the only reason that I, went for it, and still to this day, still go for it. Because I will tell you this, like actually, it was a casting director who cast Hugh Jackman in Boy from Oz years ago. I took a casting workshop from him. And he tells everybody in class, whenever he gives the workshop, he's like, if there's anything else you could do in life, do that. Do not do this. But he said, okay, fine. But if you're one of those people that just really have to do this, otherwise you'll die, then fine. So because, even though that sounds really kind of hard to hear, it's unfortunate. I can understand. It's the truth. Because this business, to be an actor singer, is not like any other career in that sense. Because a lot of the other careers, right, you work hard, there's like this gradual, logical journey, logical step, logical progression. But in the acting singing world, even though there's some logical, progression, but really most of it is not.
So it's not a true meritocracy. We would like to think academically. Let's continue this journey about talking about, okay, look, your family means well. They're trying to protect you from failure.
Right.
But they're not really sitting there going, well, you can do it. You can do it. They're kind of doing a left-handed compliment, left-handed support, or I apologize to all lefties out there, but it's kind of an underhanded, but passive-aggressive form of helping you. It's sort of on your side.
They want me to have a better life than they did, right? So,
yep.
Even siblings want you to have a better life, right, than your parents did, right? So they mean well. But obviously, yep. I did not have somebody going, you can do this, I believe in you, all that. But like, there's people that have kind of entered my life that kind of reminds me of the calling God put in my heart. And like even a teacher who was not my teacher in high school, I remember in passing, he would ask me about singing somewhere. And he said he would pay good money to hear me sing. And this was a teacher I really didn't know, but he heard me sing in like a school event or, school like recital or something. So it's like, I still remember little things like that. Somebody just in passing saying that, it's just, yeah, and then you meet certain people, right? I've had some people in my life kind of come in with, there was this one guy who dreamed of had this vision of being a choir director and having this huge choir from all over the world, envisioning something how he wanted. And he wanted to talk to me about singing with him and all that. So it's like so certain people just kind of recognizing something in me and kind of, saying you should do this, or, so just over the years of comments like that. But it's like really the bottom line is, it's again, being so miserable, working so hard at something that you knew you were not supposed to be doing with your life. Nothing wrong with what I was doing. You make a decent career, but that wasn't what I was put on this earth to do. And with the time I have on this earth, basically my soul was dying, not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So this is mainly more because I had to be, I sound like that, I gotta be me, it's like,
but
I had to do.
But you had that inner drive that you knew if you did not follow these talents that were given to you, that your life would not be meaningful, that you would not be happy. And we've had discussions about this over and over again, where maybe our performing lives haven't gone exactly the way we planned, but we love the journey. We're glad we are continuing to pursue it because it does bring us joy, and it brings joys to other. What I admire about you is that you just went there. You didn't have the training, even though you had a natural, wonderful talent, and you just asked questions, and you just took any opportunity that came to you. You started surrounding yourself with people that could help you in the field. And you were like a sponge. I just remember you being a sponge. You were so eager and hardworking. You would just take any opportunity or any advice and go with it. That's what I really admired about you, because even though I had all this musical background and all this musical training and I had the degrees, I did not have the same level of confidence or drive that you did. And I took a lot from that, just observing you. and it's been a wonderful growth that I've enjoyed watching and learning from. So,
Right.
yeah. Well, and you don't always get the support from your family. A lot of actors can tell you that. A lot of performers can tell you that. It's getting the people that believe in you who can be honest with you too, not just say, oh, you're wonderful, you're great, but also can just say, okay, you're great, but you need to strengthen this skill or that, or open up to this possibility.
Building that, oh, sorry, I interrupted.
No, go ahead.
It's like building that support network. And I think we've had that conversation in other episodes of how do you build that team? Maybe Cindy, maybe you have like an example to show somebody either aspiring in the arts or, hey, they're aspiring to be like sales and auditioning. Like, how do you build that? If you're going to be on your own as self-employed, essentially you are the product. You're kind of self-employed in that respect when you go to that audition. It's not a team sport. It's a you sport. And how have you built that system around you? It sounds like there's faith. So you have an ethereal connection. And then what's your network like? I assume Cynthia sounds like she's part of it.
Yes.
Your husband, perhaps?
Yes, in a different way. I mean, like because different people, I think, plays different roles in your life. Like my family would be very happy when I do get something. They're very happy, right? But just kind of like what you said about the Tom Cruise thing. People see that stardom, right? But they don't realize what it took to get there. That people don't just boom start there. You can be happy that, oh, you see me in that role, right? You see me on an award-winning show, but what it took to get there. Like even one of the roles that I got, right? And people say, oh, how did you get that role? I'm like, 15 freaking years of auditioning. That's how I got that role, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, I still remember when Mercedes Rule won her Oscar and people said, oh, how did you get this? She was 15 years of waitressing. That's how I got this Oscar. I'm paraphrasing, but I remember seeing that clip years ago.
It's the long game. It's the long game. And Hollywood and others, they regurgitate that over the night success story, which is so untrue.
Right. I mean, even if the rarity that it happens,
right,
to sustain that, you still have to have that work and longevity. Michael Phelps didn't win all those gold medals out of nowhere. It's from day in and day out of showing up every single day. At that level, he still had a coach. So you're always learning. So you're always learning, seeking. You're always a forever student, even when you are a master at it. Building your network, I think, is all different. When I saw that workshop in the Audition News, and then I took that workshop and meeting people at that workshop, and some of them had agents. And so I would ask them, how do you get an agent? I didn't know, right? I learned later that she was with one of the well-known agents in the Chicago area. So just learning from people when they tell you, you ask them questions and you'd say, and they give you what they did, like, oh, you make sure you get your headshot, make sure you get your resume, right? And if you don't have anything, then you have to start working at putting something on your resume. Take classes. You could put your classes on there. If you don't have any credits yet, well, you take classes and you put your classes on there. And then when you take, even like you and I, for a taking voice lessons, right? When we do voice recitals, I put that on my resume because that's what I had to put, right? So you keep building that. And then, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but that's how I got my first agents, with just a basic resume like that, with no real big credits yet. And also, one of the beauties about where we started in Chicago is because at the time, too, you could be multi-listed in Chicago. I don't know how it is now because I'm actually exclusive to my agent, but I don't know what the rules are anymore. But back when I started, you could be multi-listed with different agents. And, obviously, when you first start, you're not union. And there were some agents who are actually non-union agents. So, and you do like industrials. Like the corporate training videos they have.
Credit's a credit, right? The credit's a credit at the end of the day.
And or the safety videos you see on the airlines, those are all industrials too,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, when you get hired at a corporation, a lot of times they send you to training, you watch a video. lot of times they're sometimes they'll hire actors to do like this role playing exercise or something. Actually, like someone put on I don't know if this is good, but like remember that Blockbuster, Jane Lynch, right? Jane Lynch, I remember seeing not too long ago, somebody posted this industrial training video, and Jane Lynch was in there because I think she was from Chicago, if I remember correctly. It gives you experience, and it lets you practice your muscles, start to practice being the actor on set. It's really good experience. And I mean, I still remember, and actually my very first audition was a Dominic's Industrial. And that was my first audition, and I got it. And I still remember that. And it was fun, and how wonderful it felt. I want to do this for the rest of my life. I'm so thankful, because when I think, even though, yes, I'm not in my career, I would love to be even further in my career, but just to think of how far I am now compared to what I was when back then it was just a dream. And I remember even when I, was doing more of the industrials, the non-union stuff, but I would always remember, I was like, gosh, now why can't I audition for that show? How do you get to that level? How do you get to that level? And I never knew. And it took me years, but now I'm finally at that level. I get to audition for movies and TV shows, and theaters and national tours. And, so it's like, it's really, really kind of cool. I'm very thankful. So.
And I think I like the fact that you really never stopped trying. I mean, it was very frustrating. There were times you were in tears, and I totally get that. But I remember a nugget one of your agents told you early on was never say no. If somebody called you, say, can you audition for this? Or are you available for consider you for a second audition on this? You were always to say yes.
Yep.
Because the minute in this industry you say no, they write you off and they don't call you again. And it's not because you're not capable. It's just you were so conscientious about, well, I don't want to over schedule myself if I can't commit to this. And the agent was like, no. You always say yes to everything and you'll make it work. Yeah. I just thought, what a great piece of advice.
Yep. Say yes. I mean, yeah, that's like actually good advice just for life, right? Because a lot of people, we say no more out of fear, even though you're trying to be responsible and all that. Because I mean, in all honesty, I have some of the regrets that I have in the beginning of my career was because of that. Because I was like, oh, no, I have to be responsible. No, I have a job. No, I have to take care of my parents. Oh, no, but really, I should have just said yes, just gone for it and figure the details out later. Because if this is what you want, if this is what you feel in your heart, that this is what you're supposed to be doing, you say, I mean, I'm not saying to be not use your brain, right? I'm not saying throw caution to the wind. I'm not really good at phrases, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying don't be responsible. I'm just saying a lot of times people use that as an excuse not to do and not to go for something in your life. They're using it more as an excuse that keeps you from really stepping out into your greatness. I mean, a lot of things about faith is that a lot of people are waiting for God to do something in their life when God is saying, you just need to step forward. You just need to take that step. Because like a lot of people think that God parted the Red Sea, but they had to step forth. You had to step out into faith. Yes. So, and faith is an action, not merely a belief. I mean, faith is obviously to believe what's not seen, but it's an actually active, something in action. So,
and in this industry, especially in the movie television industry, it is so fast paced that saying no it's basically putting a nail in your coffin when it comes to your career.
Right. Any kind of hesitation, because even if they're logical and stuff, because I mean, I've made that mistake going, oh, let me see, let me make sure that I could get there. Just say yes.
Before we get into the next segment, we wanted to let you know you're listening to Getting Down to Business with Mark Mondo on WVLP 103.1 FM, a community radio station out of Valparaiso, Indiana. Thanks for listening. And let's continue.
And we're back. And what I'm starting to see is something I didn't quite expect today. I've heard a lot more based on faith and passion than some kind, not necessarily logical or engineering-based rationality, but it's very different where it's faith and listening to drive. And at the end of the day, she has drive. That characteristic is universal, whether it's to the arts. Drive seems to be one of these cornerstones along the way. While Cindy is waiting for the next gig, unfortunately, there is a thing you've heard on the news called the SAG strike. The Screen Actors Guild is on strike, and you got the studios trying to. I don't know much about it, and I'll keep it very quick. There's definitely a conflict over wages. Cindy has to wait this one out. In the meantime, she has diversified her ways of making a living to something called a product called Rodan and Fields. All I know is it's something to do with your skin, and I'd like to talk to Cindy about well, wait a minute, you got acting on one side, and now you have something I would say fairly different with Rodan and Fields. It's skincare. Skincare does not equal acting, so I want to hear how this came about and how your skills of perseverance and faith have transferred into this success story.
It's interesting because I never thought of myself as a salesperson. I hate sales, actually. Sorry for any salespeople, bless your heart. But it's just kind of oh, I'm not a salesperson. I can't stand selling anything. I'm not a salesperson, blah, blah, blah. But really, that is not, that is actually the wrong thought or the wrong question. Because if you think about it, every single one of us in life, just life is sales. Maybe not sales in the traditional sense or the way we think about sales, but a parent trying to teach their children a lesson, they are selling an idea to their child saying, this is how is best to make the best decision. This is how you be a productive member of society. A teacher teaching lessons to their students. You are selling the idea of this lesson to your students to learn this lesson. And with acting and singing and all that, people don't think that as sales, quote unquote, but you are actually selling yourself as the product, your skills, your talent, your essence. And I remember, because it all relates, acting, singing, Rodan and Fields, theater, acting, singing, because again, I do TV, film, as well as theater. And
dancing.
Yes, I do.
You could do more pirouettes than I can. You are a dancer. Therefore, you are a dancer
sir.
on the show.
I'm a 2.5 threat. Just practically speaking, being an actor, singer, right? It's in that field, you need to unless you're really an A-list actor, right? You're going to most likely need another source of income. You have to pay the bills somehow. Because, there's in the acting world, there's ebbs and flows, right? Peaks and valleys and all that. So you're always going to need something to kind of help you make some ends meet. But you need something flexible because the performing industry is so unpredictable. Literally, I get a call right now from my agent. I got to drop everything and go. And so the traditional work schedule didn't work for what I wanted for my career, right? For acting, singing. So I always needed something flexible. And I remember, actually, it was my sister who told me, who wanted to share Rodan and Fields with me. And I didn't want to hear it. I will totally be honest, because I've tried other things and I couldn't give those products away. I was I don't want to hear it. I'm not a salesperson, blah, 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 right? But I was fine, you're my sister, I'll listen. And I'm so thankful I listened because of a couple of things, just on the practical side, because when you're a singer and actor, you got to look good. So,
yes,
being Asian, it's taking care of your skin is part of our culture. I grew up when my friends would, growing up, my teenage friends barely washed their face. I was cleansing my face because that's how I was, in Asian cultures, skincare is very embedded in our culture. So that was not a foreign idea to me. And I just love the products. I was like, wow, this stuff was great. I mean, I would use it anyway, because I do have kind of like a logical side to me and a business side to me, that it made sense when the opportunity just presented itself, that they always have a 60-day guarantee. So I was like, okay, I'll try even the business part for 60 days and see if I like it. If I don't, I return, get my money back. So it's kind of like, you know, just like a business person, like the pros and cons, you know, you're weighing the...
What options did you weigh when you say risk? So
yeah,
was
it rewards? Yeah, the risk is kind of like, okay, what do I have to risk? Okay, I risk this, but because I could get my money back, I really have no risk. You know, so I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. I might as well just do it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, I saw no downside to taking this risk, basically. So I took that chance. I've been thankful ever since, because I love the products. Cynthia knows I love the products. And the cool thing, I love the flexibility of this. I love the flexibility of the products itself. It's no different than some of the other supplements I take or whatever. I go to the doctor because I have some health issues, but I could use these other products that I get from people who are in the product distribution, and I can still use those. So it's like, I love the flexibility of this product. And then, and I love the flexibility just even of the working it as a, you know, hobby, business, side gig, whatnot, that it's very flexible to whatever I need. Because I'm talking about skincare anyway. I mean, we've talked about things like, you see a movie you like, you tell your friends. You see a product. I mean, like even earlier, right before it started, I was telling you, you want to know, oh, what do you have in your green smoothie, right? So it's kind of like, it's just part of normal conversation. And so it's something that I would have talked about anyway to my friends.
Now, you got your I'll call it your passion project, is becoming the next A-list actor. I don't know what other side hustles actors and actresses use to make ends meet. I mean, real estate, maybe your schedule is your own. And are there other options that you explored during this path?
Other things like, I mean, I used to be one of my before I was working in the corporate field, but they gave me flexibility so that I could go for auditions, right? But I mean, but that was back in the day. This was all before, you know, technology kind of, like even before social media was a thing, and even before this whole internet thing. Because one of the things I do like about the Rodan Fields just practically is that I could do that anywhere. It's wherever I am. And also because it's all on the internet, it's not like the old days, I don't carry inventory. So it's not like I have to, it's like everybody just buys from their website. The business model has really changed, and really the creators of this, Dr. Rodan and Fields, is that they already saw this. It's really been a blessing. And because who knew that for 2 years my industry would shut down, just like a lot of industries. Who knew, right, back then, that I would not even be allowed to work for those 2 years, right? Because they were shut down. So, and then now, obviously, unfortunately, with the strike, that we can't. But I can do theater because theater is different. So, luckily, I can still do that. But I mean, so it's like kind of, I know people are kind of, it's not a joke. It's not a joking matter. I'm just saying, like, people are kind of making just to how to get through this tough time. Is they're calling this strike like COVID 2.0, you know, because, you know,
sure. I mean, you shut
well,
your means of taking a living down.
Yeah. And I think the options for performers, artists to do remote work in different areas is the field is greener than it was when you and I were first starting out in the 90s, where you can, like you said, you can work anywhere remotely with your Rodan and Fields business, and other people do their own. They might even have an Etsy, you know, product that they sell, things like that. So you don't have to do specifically a waitressing job or work for a temp company in an office, which is what I tried for a while, and it didn't really work because, yes, you're temping, but you're still working for corporate offices that want you there for specific hours. And if you get a call for an audition, you can't leave.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more flexibility in the workforce now, I think, for artists, but you still have to work hard.
Yeah,
you
still
have you still got to work hard on any of those opportunities to pay the rent. to have, health insurance or anything like that if you're not part of a performing arts union like Equity or SAG. So
which I am.
I've noticed that you've been able to, because you have much more of an entrepreneurial spirit anyway, the more and more I've known you. And so being a performer and finding opportunities to perform, finding the right agent, and because you've moved a lot in your adult life and your performing life, and you've made that work. And also because I think one of the good things that came out of post-COVID was that you can audition remotely now for everything. You don't have to fly out, to the studio or wherever to do an audition. Now you might, after the third or fourth audition, they might want to meet you in person and actually do something, audition you in person. But the initial hard work of getting your foot through that door is due through remote auditioning and videotaping. Can you share a little bit more about how you do that at home?
Yes. And that is, like you said, that's one of the blessings that did come out of during these challenging times, is that before, doing a self-tape was very rare or unheard of. And now it's the norm. And that has worked well for someone like me who has never lived in really close to a major hub like New York, LA, or Chicago. I always lived outside of Chicago, right? So, but luckily driving distance. But now, like you said, in adult life, who knew that I would move around so much all over different places where there is not a major hub. So this whole self-taping thing has been a real blessing for people like me. And one of the beauties of it is, for really any industry now, if you have your phone and internet, it's possible to still audition, because you could just put yourself on tape and you just have another reader, whether it's you FaceTime a friend or you have somebody physically, there, a friend come over or something, but preferably another actor. No offense to family members who are willing to help you or friends, but it really does help to have another actor, friend. And that's like one of the beauties of this too. What came up is, right before I came on this call with you guys, I was in a Zoom acting class with the studio out in LA. So, and there was a time not that long ago, I would not have been able to do that. And now, because of what's transpired the last few years, that companies have set up different ways to do meetings and classes via Zoom or other technology streaming, that it allows people like me to be able to take classes with other LA Hollywood actors from wherever I am. And also New York. There's people from New York, all over Texas. We're all in this class together, and we're all actors from all over the country. And then also with the Rodan Fields, it's like, I can go. I'm about to ready to leave to go do a play, in about a week or so, and I'm taking my Rodan Fields business with me because I'm the product of the product, So it's just because I use the products. It's been a real blessing to be able to use the technologies that's given to us now that we didn't have years ago. The internet, the Android, the iPhone, the iPad, the tablets, even laptops, whatever, the internet, and do business from wherever we are, actually anywhere in the entire world, right? I have a consultant in Australia that I have never in person met, but I've met her over Zoom meetings. So it's really been just a welcome freedom, And yes, for auditioning, nowadays, of course, there are still some in-person auditions. A lot of commercials are now going back to in-person and all that. But like even theater, TV, film, but then even theater, the initial rounds are like, a lot of times are, if you can't do in person, they'll usually allow self-tape, which has been a welcome blessing for someone like me.
So I got a question on that. Mm-hmm. No, more of a question. With the democratization of this technology that we're using today to make this happen, does that mean there's more competition for acting gigs for the same gig?
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm going to win because of my skills, but My equipment is decent. That might give me a little bit of an edge. My camera is decent. It's as good as anything. But is that going to make things better or worse for you? It sounds like you're really positive about it, but what do you see as some of the potential downsides, if any?
Oh, that's great. Excellent point. And you are correct. There is more competition because there's more opportunity. Now there's more competition. And not only...
Is there more content being created? Is there more content, paid content being created?
A lot more. With so many streaming and all that, there's more content created for sure than there was back in the day. But there's also more competition. And not only that, not only is it people in the United States, but now they could go anywhere in the entire world. So they're auditioning people from other countries, whereas before they couldn't, because it has opened more opportunities as well as competition. Now, how to say, people could say that, oh no, that's horrible. But you know what doesn't change is what we kind of mentioned before the break was perseverance. Was what's actually between, and whether it's Rodan or Fields, whether it's acting, singing, or whether it's the corporate job, it's what is between your ears. The only thing that is that is the most important. The voices that you hear in between your ears saying you can do it, you can't do it, that becomes even that much more important. Your perseverance, your indomitable spirit, your self-control. And I mean, all that plays into part of it. And actually, in my personal view, that is the X factor. The X factor is you, in no matter what it is you do. Because you could still have the best product, but it doesn't necessarily, just like with, even acting, right? It's like, it's not necessarily the most talented actor that gets the role, and it's just...
We don't know, actually, from the outside looking in. We think it's a meritocracy. So yeah, there's the A role, and then we all make fun of the B movies, but that it could be, we don't know, from us.
It's true in any performing arts field. It's not always the most talented person that gets the job or the famed-ridden career.
Yeah, even in the opera world, right? It's not necessarily the best voice that makes it, the best singer that makes it, right? Who gets the role. And it could be so many factors. And that's actually another thing that is what actually has in common with something like acting, singing, and Rodan Fields, of what is within your control and what is not. Knowing knowing what is within your control and what is not in your control. You cannot control what anybody else or anything else does outside of you. Even technology. We had thunderstorms here. It's monsoon season. The internet could go out. I can't control if power goes out. So what do I do in the meantime? What am I doing during this time strike, whatever, that I can't do TV film, but I can do theater? Even if I didn't have a theater gig lined up, what am I doing? I'm showing up every day and working on my craft, taking classes, making sure I look good on the inside as well as the outside. Make sure I'm taking care of myself emotionally, mentally, spiritually, putting healthy things into my body, as well as having fun with my friends when I want to, like feeding your soul. So it's like, no matter what it is, whatever it is you are doing, and because this is not just these principles that we're talking about, doesn't just apply to acting, singing. It's principles that you apply in whatever it is you're doing. What do you do when you're not meeting your client to make the sale? That whole time you're preparing, right? You're educating, you're learning how to talk to people, you're connecting with people, So it's really interesting.
It sounds like you've done a really good job of taking care of yourself with the right supplements and the right skincare and so forth.
And she exercises a lot.
Oh, that's right. When you came up to Chicago, yeah, you're in prime shape. And aren't you a black belt on the side just for fun?
Yes. I'm only a first degree, so I say baby black belt because Like people think like black belt, all of a sudden, oh, you're like Bruce Lee. Now, black belt, obviously, it takes a lot of work to get there. However, in my personal view, black belt, that's when really the journey starts. That's when really, like you're learning that whole other time, you're learning how to walk. Now you're learning how to run. That's an important part of my life. And does it kind of come in and out like more than other times, depending on what's going on in my life? But that will always be a part of my life. I mean, that's actually how I met my husband, because, he was one of my black belt instructors. So, and that's something, right? There's this little saying, the couple that kicks together sticks together. So I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Oh boy. Well, my last judo class was in 1978, so I'm a little off my game.
It's okay, but
I failed the test from white belt to yellow belt, and I dropped out.
That's okay. That's a lesson.
That was a lesson.
Yeah.
Well, how with those lessons, that's another sidebar for maybe like the sports show on Saturday at WVLP at Coach's Corner. We can talk about my sports career in judo that lasted about 6 weeks. But how are you using? I know there's a lot, like we said, we got on the non-technology side, but do you use social media at all, or how are you promoting yourself during this SAG strike? Can you promote yourself by saying, look, I got a social media page, you can talk about yourself? I mean, you're not doing paid work. Are you using anything like that? Would you tell another aspiring actress actor how to use social? Should they use social? Are they just depending on private auditions to make their stuff, or should they be doing stuff on YouTube just for fun without being paid?
Really, that's a great question, because I know I've seen some real pros do such a great job with that. I admit that is not my strong point, even though I know that is a skill I must learn and need to learn in nowadays. But just on a personal note, in all honesty, I'll be totally honest. If I was not an actor, I probably would never have gone on social media, because that's just not what I normally, me as Cindy would do. Like, it took me a long time. I kept getting these friend requests, and I was like, it took me a long time to ever get on. I was like, I don't know, whatever, but I mean, it has been a nice way to connect and reconnect with people, but like the only reason I actually got on social media was because my agent said we should probably get on social media. So that's why. But it's like, I have not, in all honesty, I have not capitalized on it like I should have, could have. But that is something, we all have areas we need to improve. And I must admit, I think that is an area I need to move through, because I think it's only going to get more, it's only going to get more of that kind of skill to learn. Like, actually, I remember because I followed Justine Bateman, and I remember she wasn't on it for a long time, but now I've seen her be on it more, because it's become a tool to kind of get your message out with, or project or something. But unfortunately, with what's going on now, I can't post about that,
right,
with this. But a lot of time, but really about the social media thing is showing who you are, right? Showing, because
you're the brand.
Yeah, because I'm the brand, right? To show who I am. So like, my dog is a huge part of who I am.
Well, Lily has a lovely presence on Facebook. And I understand it, because it's not natural for either one of us, especially of our generations,
right,
that we automatically going to be self-promoting on social media on a regular basis. And I think you do a pretty charming job on Facebook. You take great pictures of yourself, eating your green smoothie, your healthy drink of the day, and promote yourself through a beautiful song rendition that you'll sing, or something to do with Rodan and Field product. And I like it because it's really creative and your personality without being overly annoying. But it's definitely a skill that we all have to continue working on, because it's just not in our nature to do. Yeah.
The younger generation is like second nature. They just seem to know. But for our generation, it's like, girl, I went to college with a typewriter. They probably never saw one.
I remember mine.
You can't tell time with the analog. You can't tell time with an analog watch.
Yeah. or yeah, or make a phone call, right, with a phone, like a regular
Yes,
phone,
a real phone.
right? So but I shouldn't laugh at that, but it's just, yeah, but but I have to say, like, I envy the younger generation that just like, this was like, they seem like they came out of the womb knowing this stuff. So but yeah, I know, practically speaking, this is a skill I need to get better at. And I look at some of the other, but I also know, like, because it's kind of like, I think of it as kind of like, if my grandmother was still alive, if I didn't feel comfortable her seeing a post, you know what I mean? Like, I put what I put on Instagram like that, like, I'm thinking, like, you know what I mean?
You want to put your best self out there on social media. And I remember a friend of mine saying, when she was training her kids on social media, she said, you want to put the best self on social media that won't cause you embarrassment a year later. Because those kids were getting ready to apply for college, and you knew colleges were checking out applicants on social media to see what they had out there. And so the parents always says, you want to put your best face out there, your best self out there, so that it doesn't come back to bite you. And I think that's true for the performing arts as well, especially because
that's very good advice.
You are your van. Well, and I hate to do this, but we're reaching the end of the hour. So we're going to have to wrap it up, but I really appreciate all this wonderful insight and information you provided us, Cindy. And I'd like to thank Mark for keeping us on the level and on time today.
Hold on, that's a role reversal.
That's right. Today he's playing producer and I'm playing somewhat interviewer, or we're co-sharing both of those roles today. And I like to thank Cindy for coming on the show today and sharing her experience and insight as a professional actor.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy for you. Love you guys. Very proud of you.
Thank you. If you missed some of the show today, you can listen to the replay on Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Time on WVLP 103.1 FM, or live stream at www.wvlp.org. And Mark stores the past shows on his website at www.mondocrm.com/podcast, or you can listen to the podcast on your favorite app at any time. We're listed in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Podbean. Just search for Mark Mondo and the show will come up, and you can subscribe to the show for the latest updates. Thank you very much for spending time with us today, and we'll see you next week.